Okay, hi, welcome to the dev update video that I promised for the past few weeks. We'll be taking a look at what we've done in Ikarus and where we are right now. Additionally, or I should mention beforehand, before we start, a lot of the features that will be in the next release are not there yet. There are some things that are already there, but they're not on this version of the development branch. And I will always mention what is planned for the release. So here we are on the main screen. We have a menu bar now, which looks like this. These things don't actually do anything yet. They're just there to be a placeholder holder for what's to come. On the bottom we have the different tabs, of which only the project and the data tab are currently implemented. You can also maneuver to the left and to the right. Ignore the misaligned styling when you hover over something. By the way, this black box on the bottom here is just to hide my taskbar, so usually there's no black box here. You'll start out, we'll have a file picker here. I'm imagining to have the logo on the top side, and then you can pick any location on your computer to save the project in. This is one of the big changes that a lot of people requested. This opens up possibilities for maneuvering projects around, so you don't need to have them in one specific location. And will in the future we'll implement things like Steam Cloud and maybe Dropbox and Google Drive support and these kind of things. For now, let's create a new project. Let's just call this test. And back to the project screen, you'll have a list of the recently opened project on the left side here, and you can load them by just clicking on them. Otherwise, if you have a project that you haven't recently opened, you'll have to manually load it, but with a file picker like you're used to from Windows, where the Explorer opens and you can just maneuver to it. Anyway, our project is automatically loaded, and you'll see that it looks very, very different than what we had before. This is just to designate that we have no entity selected. So on the left side we have the folder view for now, and on the right side we have the content view. The tab bar always stays at the bottom. Now I would like to have some buttons here that allow you to create blueprints and attributes and stuff like that, but for now everything is done by right clicking. So let's create a new blueprint. So this is just a normal blueprint. We have two folders, which is the blueprints attributes and the blueprints instances. And we can go ahead and we can give this blueprint a new name by renaming it. And then let's say this is our character, as always. Now, if we open the character, you'll see it opens on the right side, and we have a lot of different... we have two more windows or sub-windows that open here. What I really like about this approach is that you're able to have a lot of data compacted into a big amount of space. So previously in Ikarus, a lot of the windows would be very small, and you'd have to resize them frequently, which happened because we just wanted to display so much at once, which isn't necessary. There are many ways to go around this, and for now we'll choose a tab system where you can switch between them. Now this character doesn't have anything, so let's give him an attribute. Say we give him a name. Now on the right side here you see we have different tabs to give an overview of the blueprint. So for example, this we'll see is the name, and it's currently a Boolean attribute. This is resizable. It's not aligned perfectly. If you'll see, look closely, the bottom space is higher than the top space. I can't actually fix that right now, or at least not in a simple manner, so I'll have to wait for something from the framework that we used to fix that. In addition, we also have the space here, which is larger than the space here, which is also a bug from the framework. So yeah. So now we have the blueprint open, but you see we have two more of these lines over here. The second one is for attributes, the third one is for instances. So let's double click on the name to open the name attribute. And again, you'll see the different windows that we have. Here'll be the settings of the attribute, which currently isn't implemented. There will be constraints here, which currently isn't implemented, and there will be the associated values here, which is implemented. So let's move that to the right here. We can say that this is a Boolean attribute. Sorry. And we, as previously, we have the different types right here. What changed, however, is we don't have choosable, selectable, reference, and reference list anymore. We just have choice and reference, and you can just specify that it's a list. So you will also be able to specify a Boolean list or a number list if you have something like the favorite numbers of your character, or the favorite colors, or the colors of a flag, or something like that you want to specify in this manner. You'll be able to have, pardon me, my voice is a bit cracky today. You'll be able to have lists of everything. So that's something we're working on. It's not implemented right now. However, the first, I believe, 5 here are implemented. Everything that doesn't need settings. Something that also changed is you're able to specify information. So a character is the main part of a story. It's multi-line, so you can have everything here. There's no syntax highlighting, so you can't have like bold or italics or something like that. We'll implement that in the future. For now, I just wanted to have it here for the sake of it. The internal ID is something that will be used for plugins, so it's not to worry for almost anyone, unless you want to deal with it. Tags aren't a thing yet either. They'll be in the future. Actually, let me go into that. When we have the map editor and things like that, you will have some blueprints that you can put on a map and others that you can't. For example, you probably don't want to put a weapon on a map, but maybe you want to put a town on a map. So one tag you could give the town blueprint is the location tag, and that means it can be used in the map editor. These tags will mostly be useful for plugin users and for people who, like, if we ever get to the point where you can use Ikarus to play pen and paper online, you can have tags that will be helpful. So you could have a tag for this is a thing that can be triggered by something, or this is an item, or something like that. In addition, for everyday users like story writers, the tags can be used to filter or search through specific things. Anyway, let's go to the name and say that the name is a text attribute. Now we can go ahead and we can create an instance, and you immediately see that the instance popped up here. It also popped up here. This is not only for as a visual clue. You can also hold Ctrl to click on it to maneuver from the blueprint to the attribute, or to the instance that will now open up. One thing that immediately changed is, or that you'll see has changed, is we dropped the representation feature. Sorry for the children outside. I'm not so sure if you can hear them. Now, this wasn't an easy decision for me, and I think I'll implement the representation feature back in the future. However, I noticed that most people already wanted something like a way to override representations for special characters or something. And I figured, okay, every character can, or every instance can have a normal name. And evidently now if you put the name here and then you put it here as well, and if you change it here, it doesn't, like if I make this not part of I make it Potter, it doesn't change. So that's one thing that's a bit annoying. You have to change it twice. However, I recommend that you use this as the name attribute, because you'll be able to filter by this just as you'll be able to filter by any attribute. So the only things that you can't have is numbers or some reference to a different attribute anymore, which was the case in representations. I just figured that this is good enough for most purposes. So in the future we might implement it back as the default feature. So instead of saying instance 1, it will as per default use the representation, but I believe this is fine for now, and it removes a lot of overhead from the code. It makes Ikarus a lot more performant, because the parsing and evaluating of every representation was about 90% of what drained performance from Ikarus. Deletion doesn't work, by the way. I just figured I would say that. We also support folders now. Now, it's not just the attributes in the instance folder, but let's say you have like I don't know, Griffin family, and then you have a subfolder, and you can add Peter Griffin and stuff like that. So you could have folders. They're also toggleable. So we'll also make this, like, you can drag it right now. It just doesn't do anything. Reordering is something that will need to be implemented with this. Anyway, let's go here, and we now have Peter Parker. We have the name, which is the name attribute. As always, we can change this to a Boolean attribute and things like that. Now in the attribute itself, you can see the associated values of it in the different instances. In the instance, you can see the different attributes and the values. In the character, you can see the different instances. We'll have the table view here, by the way. That's the feature we experimentally put in. The framework will have a rework table system soon, and as soon as that's in, I'll implement the table view for the instances. And you also have the attributes, which immediately shows the type and the name of it. So let's dig in a bit about this. By the way, this is also as an information. I just figured I should say that. Let's dig in a bit about this tab system. I'm a bit uncertain how to keep this recently open things alive. The three options I have is, the first option is don't have it at all. You know, you have this beautiful view on the side here, which will be searchable and filterable and whatnot. So why do you need a recently open things? I personally believe it's nice to have that. You know, if I go around and actually, let me show that real quick. Like, this is the IDE we code in, and you can see that this also has a recently open things tab, and it's really helpful just for a lot of occasions where you go around and you make one change here and you want to make it somewhere else. So the first option is you just have one tab bar with all entities, and I really don't like that. I really don't like the idea of having character here and then name here and then Peter Parker here, and it's just all mixed up with colors and or maybe not with colors, which would make it even more confusing. Or let's say you have a location and a character blueprint, and both have a name, and then you need to differentiate that with a like character / name. It's just a bit awkward. So I went for the 3-tab system for now, which might change in the future. The idea is that at the top you have the character, and below that you have all the associated items with it. So if I make a new blueprint, so let's have this be the location blueprint, and I open it up, you'll see the attributes closed, because these attributes here, they're only associated with the blueprint itself. And I hope the visual distinguishing is strong enough that you can see that this is the active item, but this is still a selected item, compared to this is the active item. Like the visual distinguishment here. Again, pardon me, my voice. That's it for what I've done, or what I've worked on mostly. It was this folder thing, it was the implementation of the things themselves, the data. We switched the model 3 times because we figured out we wanted to test things, we wanted to see what works best. And this is currently what we're stuck with. We don't use a database anymore for everyday usage. We use the data just inside our code, and then we save it like a normal game would with a save file. Pardon me for a moment. I'm back. Hi, sorry. So this makes it more performant in general, like a lot more performant actually. It's also the most flexible option that we have. The only trouble here is that searching and filtering will need to be implemented completely manually from scratch, because we don't have a database to work with. Saving isn't actually implemented, so if I close this down and I open it up again, you wouldn't be able to load this data back. That's something, it's pretty trivial to implement. So I'll work on that in the next few days after I get the last few things done, namely settings and constraints. The other things that Faded has worked on is the font. We now have a very nice looking font that supports Russian characters, that supports Korean and Chinese characters, and I'm really happy about that. That'll enable us to not only, people from those countries will be able to use Ikarus with their native language, but we'll also be able to have translations for different languages soon. I speak 3 languages, 2 of which good enough for translations, and I have a lot of friends from different countries that could help me translate. But we could also just ask the community to help us out with translations. I'm not sure about that. I'm a bit suspicious about how well it would work, especially when you look at things like the YouTube translation community, which doesn't have a good reputation. And we also switched to DirectX 9 and OpenGL2 as our rendering backend, which means that lower end computers will be supported. We have a lot closer integration with the operating system now, so we can display native arrow windows. Like, I'm sure if you've played Minecraft and it crashed, you have like this red arrow and a huge exception line, things like that, you know, just a bit more informative. So for example, if you're on Linux and you don't have one of the libraries included that we link against, we can show you that so you can install it instead of Ikarus just not launching at all. We've also been working a lot, or Lulu Faded has been working a lot on macOS support. So we hopefully will be able to ship the support for Mac soon, I guess. That's pretty much it for now. I would really like feedback on this, because a lot of this is still, you know, the release is probably still 2 weeks away, roughly. And this is all bound to change. Like, this is what I'm currently very happy with, and I think this is a big step up from what we previously had. I also realized that this is pretty long. It's not scripted. I'm sure you'll be able to tell. I'm terrible at editing videos and things like that. I just wanted to have this out there. I hope it doesn't stretch for too long or too much. Thank you very much. I don't think I've missed anything. Hopefully not. Thank you very much, and I hope you all have a great Sunday or whenever you watch this video. I'll see you around. Bye bye.